What's up guys, Nukin here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about some news on Grand Arena and what you can do to prepare right now because it's starting in just a few days. So it's Tuesday night right now. I am on my Android emulator. They did get the Title 14 update. And so if you're on Android and want to play on your computer, or if you're on iOS like myself, you can go and download BlueStacks. Link will be in the video description below. Very first link. I am sponsored by BlueStacks, so that is a great emulator that I love to use, and it's the best one actually that I like using. If you don't want to run BlueStacks, there are some other ones like Andy OS and Nox and a few others, but they are a little bit more choppy, and BlueStacks is actually, in my opinion, the best one. So now, here's Grand Arena. Player lock in 1 day, 21 hours, so in just shy of 2 days. So it's Tuesday night, so on Thursday, things are going to be locked. So just like in Guild TW, you can swap your mods around, but once you pass that lock zone, it won't reflect in the game mode. So that's going to be important. Going in, you can see here the round one, so there's going to be 3 different rounds. The whole event is going to be about a week long, and so each round is going to have an attack phase, place defense, and join phase, and an attack phase, just like kind of how we do in Guild TW. So that's going to be nice. Now you can see here the rewards, first and second, so it's a 1v1, so second means you lost. 15 versus 35, that's more than double, and 10 to 30, that's triple actually, and this is some Rancor raid gear. So, and this is the mod salvage that you take mods up to 6.4. You can also see 12 modulators, so that's nice. This is the second place ever in the game where you can get modulators. I think that's what they're called. It's also the third item that you need to take a mod to 6. A gold A mod to 6. So a little bit more than half, so that's nice. So you can see here that that's going to be some nice rewards. I think this is just for round one. I think as you go to each round, it'll either be different or maybe it'll be more. And then at the very end, at the final, you know, after round 3, you should have different rewards and even more than this, but I'm not sure. We'll just have to see. Now here's the map. The red is the opponents, and you will always be blue on the left side here. And you can kind of check that there's only 2 territories, it seems, at least in the very first round. Squad size of 5, so standard 5 team. Now there's going to be some territories that only have a squad size of 3. We'll get into that in a second. And you can see here that the banners are going to be different. Setting defense is 90, whereas it's only like 20 or 30 in Guild TW. Offense is also higher. You know, typically the max you can get is around 20 or so for winning an offensive victory in Guild TW, whereas here 16 to 64, and we'll go over that as well. The conquering is questionable. I'm not sure what that's about, but I guess we'll find out when the mode starts. So now let's go to the forums and actually just go and scroll down to the Grand Arena. So this is, by the way, going to unlock at player level 85. So if you're on a newer account or you're a new player, you have to hit level 85. Matchmaking, we talked about that. Sometimes there's going to be matchmaking where you have a 9th person on your group, and so one player lucky player will probably get a buy. Now a buy means that you just get a freebie win. So unless you really wanted to play, it's probably going to be nice to have a buy. The players that you're matched up with in your group of 8 are going to have similar GP around the range of yourself, so it should be fairly even. You can also see here that 24-hour join periods and setting defense periods and attack periods, just like in Guild TW like we talked about. Now, gameplay wise, you can see here that they did talk about and hint that you can actually run some squads with 3 units, so that'll be interesting. We didn't see that in the very first round, at least for setting defense. And you can also see here that here's some more information about fleets. Now, depending on your GP, you know, defensive squads and fleets, the more GP you'll probably have to do more, and the less GP you'll get to do less. And that makes sense because someone with like 1 million GP probably doesn't have 4 different fleets, whereas someone with 4 million GP probably does, at least right about now, or they're wrapping it up. So that's going to be nice as well. So you're not going to be too stretched thin if you're at a lower GP amount. And you can also see here banners. So we talked about, and we saw the banners that were a little bit different. And you can see here that there's going to be a way of basically preventing ties. So, you know, number of attempts and surviving units and all that, that's typical of GuiltyW, but they've gone a little bit further, full health and protection. So 2 more criteria to mitigate ties. And so if you finish with full health, for example, you're going to get some bonus banners there, etc. And the rare occurrence of a tie with that, the player with the higher GP will win. I don't think I like that, but I don't really expect to ever be in a situation where that ends up happening. And then in the extremely rare chance of that happening and you have equal GP, it'll just be random. A random player will win. So I highly doubt that I'll ever see that happen to myself, but you know, knock on whatever. So that'll be that. So auto deploy, that's a new thing that we're learning about. So if you forget to set your defense, it will auto deploy some stuff for you. I am dubious whether it'll be deploying anything decent. So you're probably still kind of screwed if you forget to do anything, but it is, you know, maybe it'll make more of a difference at the lower GP brackets. So rewards. Now here's something new. Small rewards for every squad that you defeat. So that was not mentioned before. Now we talked about rewards and comparing it with first and second. I think what we were looking at was the first and second place rewards of round 1. And so there's also going to be, you know, rewards at the end, the very end after the 3rd round and the entire sort of match is done. So that'll be nice to see what those are. And you can see here season 0. So it's weird to start off with a 0, but you know, that's what it is. Next season will probably be 1. So that's that. And I guess each season will be maybe a little bit different. Who knows? There won't be any bonuses like in GuiltyW in Grand Arena, by the way. And that is the rest of the forum post. Is just going to be talking about portraits, changing your arena payout, and some bug fixes and quests and stuff like that. So this video is about Grand Arena, so we're done with that. So let's just get rid of this. Let's go back to the game. So in this next section of the video, I'm going to be talking about 3 different things that you can do right now to start to prepare or at least start to think about stuff like this. So going back into the Grand Arena, you have to use squads on offense and on defense. So the first thing to do, it's a PvP type game mode. So there's the icons and avatars that they were talking about and stuff like that. So I'm Palpatine, there you go, very cool. So check out the arena, go into your arena shard, look at what's being run in the top 50. Of course, Revan is the very strongest sort of meta team right now, but here's a CLS squad. You know, here's 2 CLS squads, and you can see here that a CLS squad seems to be doing all right in arena. It's going to be a team that you possibly want to place on defense or use on offense in Grand Arena. And here's, you know, here's a Traya squad, for example, a Traya Sith squad, probably also going to be the case. And even a Palpatine squad with Traya, it's going to be probably just almost as good or maybe better as a Traya leader Sith squad. If you just go down the list, there's probably going to be some other squads. Wow, Bastila Jedi squad, that's interesting. Is there any, a Night Sister squad, that'll be interesting to maybe use. And just check out your top 50 and look at those teams. Now, when you're going into Grand Arena, and depending on how many zones there are to deploy, you know, you're going to want to have a team that doesn't, and 2 teams, at least in this situation, where you have 5, said squad size of 5, and you don't have heroes that are overlapping on your 2 teams. So that's going to be something to start to think about. And also you're going to want to be able to potentially use those teams that we saw in the arena and potentially know how to run them in all different scenarios. So for example, we saw a CLS Rebel team. Do you know how to use the CLS Rebel squad and beat the Revan teams and the Treya teams and the Night Sisters and maybe a CLS mirror match? If you don't, you should start practicing right now and use some of your extra arena battles, maybe even consider refreshing for an extra 5 battles and start getting some practice in, because you're gonna want to be able to do the same thing for not only that team, but your Treya team. Do you know how to use your Treya team to beat all of the other meta teams? Do you know how to use your Resistance team and your Night Sister teams in against all the different scenarios? Because that's going to be something that you can actually not have to worry about on offense day and can maybe potentially help you plan setting your defense. So that's going to be one tip. Second tip right now, if you are hoarding resources and you have a bunch, let's go back to Commander Luke Skywalker, and you can see here I have some Zetas, you know, and some Omegas. If you're approaching around over 100 Omegas, if you're approaching around, you know, more than 2 to 4 Zetas, if you have more than that, so like 5 to 10 Zeta salvage ability, so each Zeta is 20, so we're talking like more than maybe around 80 Zeta salvage, you should probably consider putting a Zeta ability on a character that's going to do well in Grand Arena. It's time to gear up and Zeta your sort of PvP related tunes, because it's going to be important probably to help you win and be more competitive, be more consistent, save time, not be as stressed, etc. The list goes on. Have more fun. So that's going to be, you know, one thing to do. On top of, you know, upgrading your characters, you can, you know, gear them up, etc. You can, you know, if you go into the gear and you look at the gear 12, the gear 12 plus pieces are very strong, gives +6 speed, gives health, gives more damage or armor. That's going to be great. So consider putting some gear 12 plus on PvP related tunes, and then also start to look at your mods, right? So here is tip number 2. Look at your mods and learn how to mod your team correctly. And not only that, maybe learn how to spread out your mods. So here's my Revan, plus 150 speed coming from the mods, 310 speed, very fast. Now, potentially it might actually suit me better to actually take and slow him down maybe 10 or 15 speed and take that surplus speed and move it somewhere else so I have more depth around my roster. You know, maybe my Grand Emerald Thrawn, I want him to be quicker. So let's see what he's at. 275 speed. Maybe that's too slow. Maybe I want him to be closer to 300 and I can kind of move some mods around. So spreading out your mods is going to be good. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket, because every team is beatable and no team can really go undefeated. So, you know, if all of your best teams are if all your best mods are just on your arena team and the rest of your entire roster is kind of, you know, poo-poo, you wanna maybe fix that, spread it out a bit, and that's probably going to help you in both Guild TW and the Grand Arena. And then lastly, you kind of want to know what you're going to end up using on offense and defense, and so you can start to move mods on characters. For example, let's see, what's a character that I might not ever use? You know, maybe Visas Mar. You know, if I never end up using Visas Mar and she has a good mod, okay, that's not super amazing. See, that's pretty good. 8 speed, crit damage, and has a bunch of offense. If I'm never going to use her in Grand Arena, potentially take her mods and put her mods on a character or a team that you're going to end up using. So that's going to be something to consider. And then kind of a sub bullet point is looking at characters that need to be fast and maybe potentially take shortcuts. So characters that need to usually be a little bit quick: Revan, Thrawn, R2-D2, Darth Vader, Hermit Yoda, BB-8. The list goes on. What else here? Let's see. Nest is controversial. Sometimes you run her fast, sometimes you run her slow. Same with First Order. Sometimes you run them fast, sometimes you run them more tanky and with more tenacity, for example. Some characters depend on running sort of health. For example, their abilities synergize with health. Barris Offee is one of those characters. So give a bunch of, if you go into your mods and you see that you're not running health primaries on a character like that, or if they see there's 676 health secondary, not only am I running the right primary, but I'm also running secondary health. Kind of optimize your mods for that. Another character that's like that, L3, her basic attack, Daring Advance, stacking 10% max health until the end of the encounter on her basic, which she does a lot because she can get all that counterattacks in. And if you give her a nice foundation, 43k, she'll have a nice foundation to start from. Old Daka is another type of character where, you know, her abilities are based off her max health. Yep, all allies recover health equal to Old Daka's 50% of her max health. So give her health primaries and health mods, for example. So think about that. Now, for another thing to do is think about your crew members and your pilots. Make sure all your pilots are running 5 mods at least. So if any of your pilots are running 3 or 4 mods, it's time to take those, put them away, maybe even sell them and put 5 mods. Now, especially for a character, here's a good example. The Geonosians are great pilots and their ships are awesome, but they don't necessarily, you don't necessarily use them in the squad territories. So they don't need to have, you know, amazing offense or speed mods. Just put anything that's level 15 and upgraded. Also, if you have a tank, for example, you know, you can run, if you're running short on speed arrows, you can run a health or primary arrow or a critical avoidance arrow. Make shortcuts like that so you can optimize having more speed arrows on your characters that need more speed. You know, another character here's B2 Super Battle Droid, and you can see my secondary speed on him is only 30, so he's not running a speed arrow. And it's because he gets a bunch of turn meter when his other allies are attacked. So you can make shortcuts like that, for example. And just going down the list, there's probably some characters that I missed that are priority-wise that you need to mod them in a certain way, but that's okay. Also, there's specific teams that change the way that you mod them, so that's also going to be a thing. The last point that I want to bring up that's going to help you to prepare, and it's going to probably also be something that you just already should have been doing anyway, is contact your guild's TW officers and start to think like a TW officer or TW lead. And so once you do this, you can start to think about, you know, what do they do to help plan for guild TW, because that's basically what you're going to be doing scaled down on a 1v1. Think about what you're going to place on defense, and is that going to prevent you from clearing certain teams that you may expect to see on offense, for example, and figure out, you know, what's the best possible defense that you can use and what's the best teams that you can win on offense and be very efficient at clearing. This is not just, you know, it's not going to be a track race, a 400-meter track race. It's going to be a marathon where you need to be very tactical. Use tactics to kind of outmaneuver and you know, your opponents, and also be very efficient on winning, you know, on offense and getting the maximum amount of banners. So start to reach out to your officers in your guild that do TW and start to figure out how they think. And if you're too shy to do that, or you don't have enough time, don't worry, because that's my last piece of advice, but I will be making more Grand Arena content. There is just not enough full information here for me to give you any extra details about what you should be doing. They may release more, they may not, but definitely after, when Grand Arena begins, after the first or second round, you can expect to see some more Grand Arena content on this channel. So if you have any questions about anything that I talked about, or something that you should be preparing, you know, for, you know, in the next 2 days, this is starting on Thursday, which is going to be, what's today? December 6th will be Thursday, so very shortly. So if you have any questions about, modding or, who you should Zeta, leave a comment down below. Join my Discord channel, discord.me/Nukin. All that stuff is linked in the video description, and hopefully this video was helpful to you guys and you enjoyed it. And if you did, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in my next video. Cheers.
The Force will be with you.